welcome back to our channel. Today we bring you the exciting and dramatic developments of the movie Beyond the Gates. For a long time, the upper class in Briarwood has been whispering about the secrets buried behind the iron gates of the Richardson mansion. On the surface, this family is the embodiment of success, power and fame. With Ted as the head, a successful businessman and famous philanthropist in the area, and Eva, the beautiful, intelligent daughter, the bright heir to a powerful financial empire. But everything that people once believed begins to collapse when Eva accidentally discovers a piece of the puzzle that has been hidden for 20 years. The DNA test results that she thought confirmed the father-son relationship between her and Ted were a deliberate lie. Eva initially intended to retrieve her old medical records to clear up some lingering doubts about her genetic health. But when she held the new results, which were performed by an independent testing center, her heart stopped. There was no blood connection between her and the man she once called her father. The harsh truth not only broke her heart, but also set off an unstoppable chain of events, plunging everyone involved into a spiral of secrets, lies, ambition and crime. When Eva secretly sent the old records to forensic agencies, an unofficial investigation was opened. It didn't take long for clues to gradually emerge. That year, Leslie, the woman who had been Ted's secret lover, and later became Eva's legal guardian, had directly bribed a technician at the lab. He was paid a large sum of money to fake a DNA test, tricking Ted into believing Eva was his biological child. But why did Leslie do it? The answer lies in years of ambition. Leslie had never really been part of the upper class. Coming from a humble background, growing up on the back streets of Chicago, she had always felt that the world of wealth was a distant land that she could only reach through daring intrigue. The relationship with Ted was initially just a game, but when she discovered she was pregnant, or pretended to be, a bigger plan began to take shape. Eva was not Ted's biological child, but Leslie saw an opportunity to legitimize the child, making her the rightful heir to the Richardson empire. With a cleverly manipulated DNA test, she had the legal, medical and media worlds hooked into a perfectly crafted story. After the incident was exposed, the authorities were forced to intervene. The former technician, now retired and living in seclusion in another state, was summoned. Under pressure from the investigation and facing the threat of prosecution, he told the whole truth. The cash was delivered in a suburban hotel, the paperwork was altered in the lab, and everything was staged so that no one could suspect anything. Ted's name was cemented into the DNA file as a permanent statement, but it was all a cruel act. Eva, in a panic, began to search for more clues about her true identity. She rummaged through old photos, through faded notes and Leslie's forgotten diary, and gradually pieced together a vague but terrifying picture. Her real father is not Ted, but another man, perhaps an unknown person, or worse, someone connected to the dark events that happened in Leslie's past. Meanwhile, Ted is falling apart. His reputation is severely damaged as news of the fraud spreads in the press. Shareholders in the company begin to withdraw, partners terminate contracts, and charities that once admired him turn their backs coldly. But the most painful thing is not the collapse of his career, it is the betrayal by the person he once loved, and by the daughter he once considered his own flesh and blood. For Ted, every day becomes a torture. He avoids all eyes, refuses to answer the press, and begins to doubt himself. Has he been living the past 20 years with love, or is he just a puppet manipulated by a cruel plot? For Eva, the initial anger turned into a desperate need to know the whole truth. She decided to hire a private investigator to track down her biological father. Her investigation led her to a small town nearly 300 miles from Briarwood, where a man named Marcus had a secret relationship with Leslie around the time she became pregnant. There was no official record of the relationship, but neighbors remembered seeing a dark-haired woman frequently outside the lakeside cabin in the summer of 2002. Every detail sends a chill down Eva's spine, for Marcus is currently being held in a high-security facility, in connection with a series of assault and fraud cases from years ago. The deeper Eva digs, the more she finds herself drawn into a spiral with no way out. Childhood memories that seemed normal are now tinged with suspicion. Every photo, every memory, every gentle word Leslie spoke in the past is now distorted, warped, and terrifying. Not only does she have to face the fact that she was deceived, but she also has to face the possibility that she is the result of a mistake, or worse, a rape that Leslie never told about. Ted, though devastated, still silently follows Eva's journey. He sends her a handwritten letter, not to win her back or forgive her, but simply to say, even though they are not blood relatives, he still loves her like a daughter. But Eva does not respond. Because at this time, love cannot heal the wound that has been torn apart by betrayal and lies. The case was officially expanded. Leslie was prosecuted for forgery of legal documents and bribery. But she completely disappeared from Briarwood before the arrest warrant was issued. The police found only an old photo in her luxurious apartment. Recording the moment Leslie held Eva when she was a child, her eyes full of satisfaction, as if knowing that everything was in her hands. A scrawled line was written behind the photo, "Just know how any gate can be opened." After Leslie disappeared, public opinion exploded. The media relentlessly followed every development of the case, turning the Richardson mansion into a hunting target. Speculative articles, sensational headlines and zoomed-in images from paparazzi lenses crept across every social networking site. Some call Leslie a master manipulator, others see her as the embodiment of tragedy and despair. But no matter how you look at it, there's no denying that Leslie's scheme was so sophisticated that it managed to fool the legal system for nearly 2 decades, and its effects are still slowly destroying the foundations of the Richardson family. While the authorities search for Leslie, Eva faces an unprecedented crisis of self-identity. Every concept of self she once believed in is turned upside down. She doesn't know who she is, whether her reason for being is an accident, a mistake, or part of a sinister plan. She can't trust anyone, not the foster mother who once cared for her like her own, not the father she once considered her role model. Every gesture, every word, every concern from the past now becomes a poisoned fragment. When her private investigator brings back more evidence that Marcus, who may be Eva's biological father, has been investigated for rape and intimidation of women in the past, she almost collapses. Unanswered questions haunt her day and night. Is she the product of a crime? If so, did she inherit that darkness in her blood? Is there some part of her, the cold corners, the irrational anger of her teenage years, that shows she can't escape her roots? In the meantime, a new development shakes the entire case. An anonymous witness sends a long handwritten letter to the prosecutor's office, accompanied by a faint audio recording. In it, a female voice, believed to be Leslie's, confesses that her DNA tampering was not just for personal gain. Behind the plan was another force, a member of the Richardson Group's board of directors, who had opposed Ted's acceptance of Eva as his legal heir. This person had assisted Leslie, providing financial support and even facilitating her easy access to the testing system. What was the purpose? To disrupt the current inheritance structure, create a rift within the Richardson family, and take control after Ted's collapse. This information opened up a whole new line of investigation. The authorities were no longer just looking for a fraudster, but were faced with a conspiracy of high-level economic and financial power. The closed meetings of the board of directors were monitored, the group's financial records were reviewed, and every person who had come into contact with Leslie over the past 2 decades was thoroughly investigated. Ted, who was already exhausted, was pushed into a whirlwind of questioning, persistent doubts and pressure from shareholders. He not only lost his reputation and family, but also faced the risk of losing control of the company he had built. He began to fall into severe depression, refused to meet anyone, lived in a private room, and communicated only through handwritten letters. A man who was once a symbol of power, now became a shadow in his own castle. Meanwhile, Eva, instead of running away, decided to step out of the rubble with a stronger will than ever. She cooperated closely with the investigation agency, provided all possible documents, and began to reconstruct the true portrait of Leslie through diaries, emails, and personal documents. Each diary page is a slice of the conflicted psychology of a woman who both loved her child and used the child as a strategic card. There are very short lines, but full of intrigue. He believes the child is his one step closer to the chair I always wanted. Leslie's true nature is increasingly revealed. She is not only a manipulator, but also someone with an obsession for power to the point of sacrificing everything, including her loved ones, to achieve her goals. She had a history of treatment for antisocial personality disorder when she was young, but the records were covered up with a large sum of money. Eva realizes that she is not the only victim, but also the final tool in a decades-long scheme. Then comes another shocking news. Leslie has been discovered in a remote part of South America, living under a false identity with an older man on an isolated farm. When the international police team up to arrest her, she fiercely resists, only to be captured in an exhausted state. On the way back to her country, she refuses to give any testimony, only to repeat one sentence over and over again: "We all live behind gates, the only difference is that I know how to open them." Leslie's return has caused a public outcry once again. But what is even more shocking is when the investigating agency releases another recording, obtained from a secret recorder in Leslie's Briarwood home. A conversation between her and a board member named Arthur, whom she calls her sponsor. In the recording, Arthur admitted to providing the financing, asking her to activate the biological bomb, referring to Eva, and even said, "We need a more controllable successor, one who does not have the real Richardson bloodline." This discovery led to the entire board of directors being investigated, Arthur being arrested, and other members resigning en masse. Richardson Group faced the risk of disintegration, its shares plummeting, and public opinion losing all confidence in the leadership system. In that darkest moment, Eva, who had been a victim of manipulation, was seen as the only one who could save what was left of the empire. With the support of some neutral shareholders, she was nominated to the position of interim executive. Despite her unclear bloodline, she proved her mettle, integrity, and will to overcome the evil plots that had surrounded her. In her first speech to the media, she did not mention Ted, did not mention Leslie, nor did she justify anything. She only said, "I was not born according to the expectations of this world, but I will live according to my truth." No one has the right to choose their origin, but everyone has the right to choose how they go forward. That speech became a new symbol, not only for the rebirth of the Richardson Group, but also a testament to a new generation daring to face the darkness, overcoming seemingly impossible gates. Follow and subscribe to our channel to continue updating the latest developments in the next episode.